and it recognizes the fact that you have achieved in your particular area, you have learned in the particular discipline that you're being tested in. It is, if you will, a ticket in many respects. Not many blacks had done that. In fact, I think Dr. Drew may have been the first black to have actually taken and successfully passed that examination.
Through the 1940s, Drew's national reputation grew. In 1942, at the annual John Andrew Clinic in Tuskegee, Alabama, he received the E.S. Jones Award for research.
I think the true significance was that that particular society at which that honor was presented was a society made up of about 400 black doctors. These were, in fact, the 400 leading black doctors in the United States. And they met on a regular basis, and they had a clinic day in which they just provided free care to people. It was a wonderful organization. The significance to Dr. Drew was that these were his peers. These were the people who really were important to him and his work, because these were the people who were dedicated to promulgating excellence throughout medicine in the black community.
At home, the Drews had 2 more children over the next 5 years, Rhea and Charles Jr. Drew's career continued to soar. In 1944, he was named Chief of Staff of Freedman's Hospital and Professor of Surgery at Howard. In the same year, the Symbol of African American Achievement was awarded to him. Drew received the annual Spingard Award from the NAACP. On the national level, he fought for greater opportunities for African American doctors. African American doctors were watching patients die because they could not treat them at local AMA hospitals.
The largest organization in the United States to which physicians were members was the American Medical Association. Unfortunately, the American Medical Association had rules that said that before you could become a member of the AMA, you had to become a member of a local chapter. As you might expect, in the southern states especially, where segregation was most visible, blacks were not allowed to become members of those chapters, and so they were then precluded from becoming members of the AMA. This particular catch-22 was one of the real dark chapters in our day. Fortunately, at that time, we had the National Medical Association, an organization that we still have, which was brought about because of this difficulty of blacks being able to get into the mainstream of the medical establishment.
Drew continued to strengthen Howard University's medical school. He used his contacts to get more funds and better equipment. In 1948, the first group of residents training under Drew took the examination for certification as surgeons at Johns Hopkins University. This was a tense period for Drew. If his students did poorly, it would be difficult for African-American surgeons to get into white hospitals. 2 of Drew's students scored higher than all the others of every race who took the test.
It's always essential that you indicate that you are not going to be second best, but you're going to be among the best. And I think that Dr. Drew and his training focused on that so strongly that his residents rewarded his belief in them by their results.
During his years at Howard, more than half of the nation's African American surgeons certified were Drew's students. On Saturday, April 1st, 1950, Drew died from massive internal injuries in a car accident which occurred on his way to a clinic in Tuskegee, Alabama. He was 45 years old. Drew's funeral was held April 5th in the 19th Street Baptist Church, where he sang in the choir in his youth. That day, friends established the Charles R. Drew Memorial Fund for his wife Lenore and the children. 21 years after Drew's campaign, continued pressure forced the American Medical Association to end discrimination against African American doctors. It stopped in June 1968.
The legacy of Dr. Drew. That's not really a tough question, because what Dr. Drew left us was an enduring belief in excellence. and in performance. To Dr. Drew, the bonds of segregation and discrimination could in fact be broken by a continuous focus on excellence as our objective. This is where he lived his entire life. This is what he taught his residents. This is what we saw in his tremendous work in the blood bank. This is what we saw in his community work, because excellence was what drove him. And it was his firm belief that if we use that as the barometer of where we were to go, we would be successful.